Good morning and welcome. Chief Judge Altreich said, tell him you tried to go that way. I said,
you're going to throw me under the table, aren't you? I know how you are.
You're up here today. Well, thank you all for coming. What a glorious reason to get together to celebrate Judge Wentworth. So we appreciate you coming. I'd like to introduce some of our guests that are here, and we'll just sort of hold applause to the end. We have the Honorable Tom Fisher, the second judge from the Indiana Tax Court. We have the future judge, Justin McAdam. We have my colleagues in the Indiana Supreme Court, Christopher Goff, Jeffrey Slaughter, Derek Moulter. We always love it when our federal friends come over, so thank you for coming. Judge Jane Magnus Stinson and James Sweeney and Judge James Carr. We have the Honorable Heather Wealth from the Indiana Judges Association. We have our retired Supreme Court justices, the Honorable Randall Shepard, the Honorable Brent Dixon and his wife Jan, and the Honorable Frank Sullivan Jr. From the executive branch, the governor's office, we have General Counsel to Governor Holcomb, Joe Herons. Welcome, Joe. We also have from the executive branch, we have from the Attorney General's office, our Solicitor General, Thomas Fisher. Welcome. We have from the Indiana Supreme Court, we have Greg Packmeyer, the clerk of the courts, Bob Rath, the Supreme Court Chief Innovation Officer, Brad Skolnick, the Supreme Court Office of Admissions and Continuing Education Executive Director, and Larry Morris, the Court of Appeals Administrator. From the State Bar, we have Joe Skeel, the Executive Director, and Amy Dudas. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to make a few comments at the beginning about Judge Wentworth. Congratulations on her historic appointment by Governor Daniels in 2011, the first woman on the tax court, third tax court judge. I could talk the second tax court judge. Oh, time flies. My brief comments today, I could talk about the fact of the body of jurisprudence that she put out that's respected, that taxpayers and the state can rely on with regard to charting their course. I could also talk about the numerous national awards she's won, including one just this summer in the A rating she's maintained for Indiana in the tax court nationally. But I'm not going to talk about those things. I'm going to talk about what she's done off the bench. And she's done a tremendous amount of work with the future generation. So I thought I'd go on to do some investigation. And when I call people, I always have to say, no, you're not in trouble, and then I can get them to talk to me. And I talked to a tax practitioner, and he said this: she's gone out of her way to bring younger people into the profession and promote the profession as a vocation, but also to attract quality young people to a field and spark their interest in tax, to understand, besides stereotypes, that the tax profession does important work. She's mentored future generations. I really like talking to Cole Breniger, former extern. Talked about three things when he thought about Judge Wentworth: that she's so kind, she's so approachable, and she's so passionate about tax law. She was his instructor, but she was also his note advisor, and they pulled, believe it or not, practically all-nighters getting that note done. Do you remember that, Judge Wentworth?
I sure do.
That's really going above and beyond, and he said that it wasn't just to him, she put the needs of her students first. I talked to a colleague in the tax court, Judge Meneke from the Oregon Tax Court. He had three things that he wanted you all to know, and I think he's watching this. This is live stream today. He met her in 2018 at the National Conference of State Court in Lincoln. And what he says that Judge Wentworth does, she championed high-quality education for tax court judges, and she was often a leader speaking and educating at those conferences. The second thing that he thought that she did that was remarkable was she held up the Indiana Tax Court as a model for other states to follow. And then what he said third is something we all know. She's been just an energetic advocate for relationships between the tax bench and bar, demystifying the tax process. So I want to thank you for all that, Judge Wentworth. She also was she was put in charge maybe 10 years ago, shortly after she got on the bench, with helping draft the pro bono reporting rules. And that was a rule asking attorneys if they would put forth how many legal hours they were donating to unrepresented litigants. She did that. She traveled the state. In the same time, and Marilyn Smith, who is here, told me this from the Indiana Bar Foundation, that she not only advocated for, she brought attorneys in. She talked about how they can look at pro bono. So her outreach to young lawyers, judges, lawyers around the state have just been fantastic. And we're pleased to announce 10 years later, last year, attorneys did legal work, volunteer legal work at no charge, about 280,000 hours. I mean, work starting with Judge Wentworth's really hitting the road and traveling the state getting that done. And finally, I talked to and got information from Max Huffman, Vice Dean at the IU McKinney School of Law. Judge Wentworth is taught at both law schools, tax law, and he actually provided me with some of the comments the students did. This is what they said about her recently. This is one of the best classes I've taken so far, and I would recommend the class for anyone, regardless of whether the student plans to practice tax or not. Professor Wentworth is passionate and excited about tax law. She encouraged students to appreciate the subject matter. One student said more people need to take this class. Judge Wentworth certainly pushed me to be better and to work harder. So Judge Wentworth, on behalf of the Indiana Supreme Court, thank you for everything you've done on the bench and off the bench. And I know they're excited at the law school that you're going to continue teaching there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Judge Altice, who will introduce his court. Chief Judge Altice, your court, and any remarks you'd like to make.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon. I'm Bob Altice. I'm Chief Judge of the Indiana Court of Appeals. My pleasure and honor at this time to introduce my colleagues that are here today with us, starting with Judge Riley. Judge Patricia Riley from Rensselaer. I have next to her Judge Nancy Vadick from Porter County, former chief of our court. Judge Paul Mathias from Allen County, Fort Wayne. Judge Cale Bradford, also former chief from here in Marion County. Judge Leanna Weissman from Aurora, Indiana, a name that you will hear again, Aurora, Indiana, because we have two on our court from there. And then the Three Musketeers, we have Judge Pete Foley from Martinsville, Judge Dana Kenworthy from Grant County, and Judge Paul Felix from Hamilton County. I call them the Three Musketeers because all three of them have been appointed to our court just within the last year. I will tell you they are all energetic, smart, and we're very excited to have them in our court as well. In addition to that, we have our senior judges with us today, too. Our newest senior judge is Judge Margaret Robb, the first female Chief Judge of the Indiana Court of Appeals. To her right is John Baker from Aurora, Indiana. And John is the longest serving judge in Indiana currently. How many years, John? 47? 47. All right. And not to miss former Chief Justice Randall Shepard, who is now an employee of ours as a senior judge, and I can tell you that we all greatly love having him around. So that's our court, and Judge Wentworth, on behalf of our court, we all want to say congratulations. Every one of us knows how dedicated you are to the job. I've had an opportunity to work with you over the last several years. I appreciate your dedication, and you're more than just a judge that works 9 to 5 in your courtroom, as Chief Justice Rush just indicated. You are out in the community, you're out in the nation, and those kind of things bode well for the state of Indiana. So thank you very much for your many years of service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Judge Altice. I'd like to introduce Joe Herons from Governor Holcomb's office, who'd like to make some remarks. Joe?
I saw it. Yeah.
Chief Justice Rush, Chief Judge Altice, justices, judges, and honored guests. Our state and its communities depend upon public servants in so many ways, obvious and not so obvious. Judges are pillars of their communities, but aren't nearly as visible to the average person as senators, representatives, mayors, governors, and other elected officials. Yet a good judge, committed to serving with honor and distinction, can make an incredible difference in people's lives. The work they do rarely gets any public recognition, which makes it even more important that those who make positive contributions that benefit our state and its people are properly recognized. Martha Blood Wentworth is one of those people. While for many, tax is not an exciting subject, it's an important one for our state, and that's why the tax court was created in 1986. Indeed, the tax court might be the least known court in the state of Indiana, but it's a very important one that serves a very important purpose. Having a court that has expertise in the tax arena not only helps resolve tax disputes appropriately, but also provides much-needed certainty to this important area of law. And that's good for ordinary taxpayers, businesses, the state, and importantly, our economy. Having certainty is, for example, one key factor that many out-of-state businesses look for when they're deciding where to locate, invest, build, and grow their businesses going forward. And that can lead to more jobs and opportunity for Hoosiers. The governor is very selective about who he recognizes with the Sagamore of the Wabash Award. It's a high bar. It's reserved for the very best among us who have made a remarkable contribution to our state. Judge Wentworth is in that distinguished group. Besides doing the job of deciding cases, she has devoted time and energy to making an impact outside of the courtroom as well, and as the Chief Justice talked about. She has been active and held leadership positions in the state and federal bar associations, taught taxation at law schools and business schools, been recognized for her contributions to the pro bono arena, and chosen by the National Conference of State Tax Judges as the 2017 Tax Judge of the Year. It's for all these reasons and many more that the governor has decided to bestow our state's highest award, the Sagamore of the Wabash, upon Judge Wentworth. Judge, on behalf of the people of Indiana, the governor thanks you for your many years of service and for all the amazing contributions you've made over the years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I'd like to invite Judge Heather Welch, President of the Indiana Judges Association, to come forward and make some remarks. Judge Welch.
Good afternoon, Chief Justice Rush, Chief Judge Altice, and Judge Wentworth. My name is Heather Welch, and I serve as a judge in Marion County, but I'm here today in my role as the President of the Indiana Judges Association. So it is my pleasure, Judge Wentworth, to be here to talk about your retirement and wish you well. Your colleagues in the Indiana Judges Association congratulate you on a job well done as the judge of the tax court. Thank you for your 12 years of service and being the first female judge of the Indiana Tax Court. It is an important foundation and fabric of the judiciary in the state of Indiana. Judge Wentworth started her career on the tax court as a law clerk for Judge Tom Fisher, who joins us today. And now she concludes her career as she retires from the tax court. She has used her passion and enthusiasm of tax law on and off the bench, and Chief Justice Rush and I, we didn't talk ahead of time, but we might think a little bit alike. So prior to coming to the Indiana Tax Court in 2011, I was told that she once said something about the work she did when she worked at Deloitte Tax, and that she said, "How lucky I am to work on so many big and sexy tax cases." Well, thank you for your dedication, Judge Wentworth, to the Indiana Tax Court, and we hope the cases you presided over on the tax court had the same big and sexy tax issues as your practice of tax.
They did.
You heard Chief Justice Rush say Judge Wentworth has a love of tax law, and that led her to devoting her time off of the bench teaching state and local taxation. She didn't just do that at McKinney or Maurer. She also did it for 14 years at Indiana University Kelley School of Business. Thank you, Judge Wentworth, for devoting this time and effort to these young people who want to become tax attorneys. There is no doubt that Indiana will have the best and brightest tax attorneys in the country thanks to Judge Wentworth. But most of all, I would like to thank you for your kindness, your professionalism, and your willingness to take time to assist your many colleagues on the trial court bench, whether it was with a tax issue or not. On a personal note, I will miss our many discussions on the best practices to manage a complex tax or business case. Congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. We will miss you, but you are now free. No more meetings, no more deadlines, no more late nights at the tax court working on complex summary judgment motions. So best wishes for a happy retirement, and I hope that you find your next chapter of life and enjoy it greatly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Welch. She'll still get to do that because I did sign an order in the last 2 weeks where she agreed to be a senior judge. So some of those sexy cases are coming her way still. So I'd like to introduce Joe Skeel, Executive Director of the ISBA, and Amy Noe-Dudas, President of the ISBA, to come forward and make some remarks. Joe and Amy.
Good afternoon, Chief Justice Rush, Chief Judge Altice, Judge Wentworth, honored guests. You know you really like someone when you cannot remember when or how you met them. It's like you've known them all along this life's journey, and that's what I realized when I sat down to start thinking about what I might say about Marty in celebration of her retirement. I never had the privilege of practicing before her, but I assume the pleasant nature, intellect, and strength of character I've grown to appreciate shine through from the bench. I've always known somehow that she'd be my champion for the asking. Even a brief exchange with Marty leaves me feeling good. She's passionate about access to justice. In fact, not too long ago, she dropped an idea on Joe here to start a program of recognition at the admission ceremony for admittees who had completed a certain number of pro bono hours, thus emphasizing the importance of service in the eyes of those congratulating them that day. As a result, the ISBA began working with the law schools to develop a system for doing just that, and are also now in discussions with the Supreme Court on making that a reality, and that's all thanks to Marty. When asking around for other anecdotes, I learned that Marty volunteered for an ISBA Indiana Supreme Court collaboration called Why Lincoln Was a Lawyer. This sent attorneys to schools across Indiana to educate kids about Abraham Lincoln's citizenship and his roots in Indiana. ISBA Associate Executive Director Carissa Long remembered that Marty spoke to her husband's elementary class and did a terrific job, and that's not surprising to me. So, Marty, my friend, congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. I hope to see lots of new paintings in the near future. So, on behalf of the ISBA and everyone here in Indiana, congratulations. We have a small token of appreciation for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy and Joe. I'd like to introduce Mark Richards to come forward and make remarks. Mark is a longtime friend of Judge Wentworth, colleague, and a member of the tax section of the ISBA.
Good afternoon. I have had the pleasure of knowing Judge Wentworth for over 30 years, before she was Judge Wentworth and just Marty. Since taking the bench, Judge Wentworth has been a fierce advocate of the Indiana Tax Court, enthusiastically representing the court at ABA and other meetings both within and outside the state of Indiana. You'll sense a theme here from comments that have been made already. But when I think about Judge Wentworth's legacy, I keep coming back to her passion for tax law. We all remember those law school classmates who ran the other way when the word tax was uttered, leaving behind the tax nerds. Some who ran may be here today, but I include myself and Judge Wentworth among the tax nerds, affectionately. Judge Wentworth promoted the virtues of tax law whenever she could, serving essentially as a tax law evangelist. That may sound like hyperbole, but it really isn't. It reflects her genuine passion for her profession. And because of her passion, I am honored on behalf of the Indiana State Bar Tax Section to present the following. Let me just read this certificate. The Indiana State Bar Association Taxation Section thanks Judge Martha Blood Wentworth for her commitment of service to the section and the profession, and hereby renames its tax scholarship in her honor.
Wow.
Judge Martha Blood Wentworth Excellence in Tax Scholarship, presented by the Tax Section of the Indiana State Bar Association. This scholarship shall stand as a testament to her outstanding legacy and a reminder of the remarkable impact that one dedicated individual can have on an entire profession. But before I present the certificate to the judge, I want to share a message from Professor Richard Pomp, who was unable to attend today. For those of you who are not familiar with Professor Pomp, he is an academic of national renown in the field of state taxation, a distinguished professor of law at the University of Connecticut School of Law, an adjunct professor at NYU Law School in its LLM tax program, where he's taught for over 30 years, an author of a leading state tax textbook. His credentials go on and on. I don't have time to go through them all. But here is the message that Professor Pomp wanted me to read. Judge Wentworth has contributed greatly to the state tax jurisprudence with her wisdom, insights, and her deep understanding of the complexities of the tax law. She is a sought-after speaker at major tax conferences. She writes clear and cogent opinions. I use them in class to teach students how to write. She always explains how she gets from point A to point B. She logically explains what rules of statutory interpretation she is applying and how that drives the decision. She carefully evaluates the facts, weighs the evidence, determines the credibility of witnesses, and is fully transparent in her thinking. She is fair, impartial, and dispassionate. She is committed to the rule of law. She shows a genuine concern for small taxpayers who are appearing pro se. They are treated with the same concern as anyone else. Whether they win or lose, they come away with a sense that they have been heard, which advances the respect with which the judiciary is held. We can ask for nothing more than that as citizens, academics, and practicing attorneys. Congratulations, Judge, on an outstanding career and on your retirement. I wish you nothing but the best.
That's really cool, because my name is Scott.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to introduce Chuck Dunlap, President and CEO of the Indiana Bar Foundation, to come forward and make some remarks. Chuck?
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here to share a few remarks. Judge Martha Wentworth arrived at the Indiana Bar Foundation ready to make a difference and an impact on pro bono and access to justice from day one. As a longtime volunteer, contributor, and champion of both the Foundation's civic education and civil legal assistance mission, Judge Worth jumped in with both feet. As we know, that's the only way that she operates, and was always looking for ways to improve and expand pro bono and access to justice throughout Indiana. She's always the first person to volunteer to research, to write, advocate, teach, and explore new ideas. She served as the chair of the Indiana Pro Bono Commission and later as one of the first members of the Coalition for Court Access. She's a tireless champion of her fellow Hoosier and strong believer in the power of each of us to make a positive difference, both from the statewide policy level or simply volunteering to impact the lives in a profound way of people who need it, one person at a time. Even after all she's done to advance the goal of pro bono and civil legal assistance over the years, Judge Wentworth continues her civic mission of public service through her service as a member of the board of directors of the Indianapolis Legal Aid Society, and as their general counsel, John Florencic, who is here to recognize Judge Wentworth as well, noted, Judge Wentworth has donated countless hours to assist those of limited means through her work on the board of the Indianapolis Legal Aid Society. Her energy inspires us. Judge Wentworth has brought her passion and resilient can-do spirit to discovering creative and innovative ideas through pro bono and civil legal assistance in Indiana. She was one of the first to champion connecting legal service delivery to public libraries, and she has scoured the country for innovative projects that can be tried right here in Indiana. In fact, Judge Wentworth's innovative and creative ideas have led to real and tangible change here in Indiana, including the recent successful placement of 150 legal information kiosks around the state, many hosted by those same public libraries, which partnerships Judge Wentworth helped to establish and inspire. As Pro Bono Indiana was being formed in 2019, Judge Wentworth was outspoken in describing the business case for developing a professional and well-supported network that could effectively and efficiently expand pro bono service delivery across the state. As Scott Wiley, Executive Director of Pro Bono Indiana, said about Judge Wentworth, "She led our pro bono efforts during a time of amazing change. She effectively told the story about our work and its value to low-income Hoosiers, including the economic arguments that show how pro bono service improves the community. She's remained a fierce advocate, and we look forward to her continuing to fight from the comfort of her well-deserved retirement." In closing, I would note that Judge Wentworth brings her artistic eye, her keen analytical mind, and her overall pragmatic sensibilities and good humor to all of her work. While she paints in her personal time, she shared her unique artistic talents with us in helping us transform a vision into reality by creating a stronger statewide civil legal service delivery network. This has helped countless Hoosiers understand their legal issues and build stronger communities by empowering them to access the legal services they need to help unlock their full potential. Congratulations, Judge Wentworth, on your significant, impactful career of service, both on the bench and most certainly through your leadership and dedication to pro bono and civil legal assistance. I'm proud to call you an inspiration, a role model, and a true friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. I'd like to introduce the first tax court judge, Judge Tom Fisher, to come forward and make remarks. Judge Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Justice Rush. Ladies and gentlemen, and may it please the court, I always like to say that. Shortly before I was scheduled to interview for a position as a law clerk for the tax court, about to graduate from law school, Judge Wentworth, of whom I'm speaking, I got a call from Professor William, those of you that knew him as Porky, Oliver, extolling the qualities that he saw in Miss Wentworth and his focus, his recommendation on her passion for tax. I thanked him and wondered how an interest in tax could rise to the level of passion. When I interviewed Marty several days later, I was indeed impressed, notably by her attributes as a person and as a law student, but ended by was most impressed by her passion for tax. And while she did impress me with what came through was her enthusiasm for the law, her enthusiasm for her education, and her enthusiasm for what she had done in the past, enthusiasm for her family, and her enthusiasm for her dogs. Her personality overflowed. She had and does have a passion not only for tax, but for life itself. It's not everyone who can participate in a job that one truly enjoys, but to have a job about which you have a passion is truly remarkable. Marty undertook her duties and responsibilities with a passion and enthusiasm that one rarely sees. I must say that while most of my law clerks, and some of those former law clerks maybe are here today, were enthusiastic, none of them displayed the passion for the subject that Judge Wentworth did. Heck, well, I thoroughly enjoyed my time as judge for the tax court. I honestly can't say that I was ever passionate about the subject. Marty did an exemplary job as clerk and then went on to the private sector, pursuing her passion, rising to be a leader in state and local tax at Deloitte. Her passion has never waned, and I'm sure that the same passions that she displayed when I interviewed her came through to the Judicial Nominating Commission and to Governor Daniels when she sought and was selected to succeed me as judge of the Indiana Tax Court. In her tenure as judge of the Indiana Tax Court, she has continuously displayed the passion for state and local tax. Indeed, she has risen to the ranks of state tax judges nationally and is recognized as a giant in the field and is ranks up there with Rich Pomp and Wally Hellerstein. Judge Wentworth, you have done yourself, the cause of state taxation, the judiciary, and the people of the state of Indiana proud. Congratulations on a successful career and Godspeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Fisher. I'd like to introduce Judge Wentworth's staff attorney, Erica Aker, to come forward and make some remarks.
Thank you, Chief Justice Rush. Justices, members of the judiciary, and distinguished guests. When Judge Wentworth asked me to present a few remarks today, she indicated that I was to keep it to 2 3-minute tops. I found her restriction ironic. For those of you who know Judge Wentworth, especially those of you who have argued a case before her, you know that she rarely imposes or adheres to time limits. In any event, I accepted a request, approaching it as a personal challenge. To work within my time constraints, I asked myself, if I were limited to describing Judge Wentworth with just one word, what would that word be? I chose the word exuberant. Exuberant is defined as effusively and almost uninhibitedly enthusiastic, lavishly abundant, abounding in vitality, extremely joyful and vigorous. I have known Judge Wentworth for 30 years and in a variety of professional capacities. She's a fellow member of the group of attorneys who clerk for Judge Fisher, the Indiana Tax Court's first judge. She is an always active, if not leading participant in Indiana's legal community of tax professionals. And now she is the tax court's second judge, and yes, my boss. In each of these capacities, I have evidenced Judge Wentworth's exuberance for all things tax. She is ever so vigorous in her efforts to secure support for and the recognition of those who have devoted their careers to assisting taxpayers and to administering the state's tax laws. She is effusive in her devotion to the preservation of the tax court and in ensuring its place as the authoritative source of Indiana's consistent and binding tax law. She joyfully spreads the good news of tax through her teaching positions, encouraging students in elementary schools, junior and high schools, and law schools to be open to pursuing careers in the legal and tax arenas. And she has been enthusiastic in sharing her knowledge and expertise with her law clerks and staff. Judge Wentworth, on behalf of your staff, I thank you for your exuberant service to the tax court and the administrative agencies and citizens of Indiana that it serves. I wish you great happiness as you explore the next phase in your life's journey. May your exuberance, your joie de vivre, continue to radiate.
Thank you, Erica. I'd like to introduce Judge Wentworth's daughters, Amy Semmes Wentworth and Catherine Graham Wentworth Beeson, to come forward.
I'm overjoyed that I'm able to be here to celebrate my mom today. It's awesome to be here with so many friends and dear family members, as well as colleagues and friends of my mom. As a small girl, I never imagined my mom robed in navigating the legal world that I was only connected to by way of Perry Mason. My mom was my world, by my side, but ever busy, roofing houses, leading my Girl Scout troop, teaching me to sail, and roasting pumpkin seeds. She taught me to write long lists on legal pads, to create outlines, to question everything, to debate, to crave constant expansion, to work hard, to fine-tune, to cooperate, and to open my heart just when I felt like closing it or giving up on others or myself. When she went to law school, I used to meet her there as a teenager. Sometimes I'd read a case aloud to her, or would venture out to Kirkwood for a coffee at the Daily Grind. Although inspired by her, I could not imagine how far she'd go, all the way to the neutrality of judgeship and far past the limits her father marked for her when he told her women could not become lawyers. Because my mom walks ahead of me, I know I also will be able to surpass expectations and limits. I have been studying how her passion guided her, whether she is playing the ukulele, painting, or setting her goals as a senior judge. Across the ocean in Spain, I have missed my mom and have always felt her steadfast love and support. I know I'm very lucky to be her daughter. My wish for you, Mom, is that you will be able to continue to cultivate your passions and have so much fun along the way. I also hope you enjoy slowing down a bit and breathing more deeply. You deserve joy, abundant health, and a lot of time with all three of your grandchildren. Of course, this is possible, just as you have always shown me. Thanks, Mom, for your great example and love. I love you.
Good afternoon. First, I want to start by expressing my gratitude to all of you for being here to celebrate Judge Martha Wentworth's retirement. Your presence highlights the impact her role, both in the courtroom and legal community and within our community at large, has had. For those of you who don't know, I am one of the fortunate souls that gets to call Judge Wentworth Mom and shining example. I am Katie, her youngest daughter. A significant part of who I am today is the result of my mom's values, love, and dedication to both her family and her career. Not to mention the fact that she must, along the way, have shared the gene with me that makes us both more stubborn than any tax code could be. I grew up watching my mom's relentless pursuit and achievement of her professional goals. I am a firsthand witness to her principles of a tireless work ethic, a commitment to continued education, as well as self-improvement, and finding and creating connection and joy in her daily work. Now, I am thrilled to see her enter this new phase of well-earned free time. Any bets on how long that's going to last? Free time to pursue her artistic endeavors. Free time for lakeside relaxation, hopefully some cottage building. Free time for adventures with her grandchildren. I can only hope to inspire my daughter half as well as you did me, Mom. To my exceptional mother, cheers to you on your retirement. By the way, are you free to babysit on Sunday?
Thank you, Amy and Catherine, not just for sharing your mom, but for giving such a beautiful testament to her today. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Judge Wentworth's longtime partner, William Barrett, to come forward and make some remarks. Bill?
Thank you, Chief Justice Rush, Chief Judge Altice, honored guests. I have a unique spot in today's proceedings because I fill two roles, family role and professional role, because I too am an alum of Judge Fisher's law clerks at the tax court. One of the challenges of going last, however, is that everybody said pretty much everything before I get here. So I've got more X's on my notes than I do words at this point. So bear with me at the transitions. One of the things that you wouldn't have any reason to know on a personal basis about Marty is that her favorite number is 3. And because her favorite number is 3, the license plate she has as a state official is 33. 3 times 2, twice the luck. And that's fitting because although Judge Fisher didn't cite it specifically, it was August of 1990, 33 years ago right now, that she started on this path that you've all heard about today. So it's fitting that we're here at this time. And because of that, I'm going to try to squeeze down all the things you've heard into 3 points that really exemplify who she is and what she's done. And those are fealty, excellence, and dedication. First, fealty. Throughout her career, Marty has exhibited the highest fealty to the ideals of the law and of her profession. When she was a practitioner, she advocated brilliantly for her clients in both transactional and litigation and compliance matters before regulatory agencies. As a judge, she has shown in opinion after opinion after opinion how she hews to the requirement of Article 3, Section 1 of the state constitution, the separation of powers provision, clearly dividing the role of judiciary, executive agency, and the legislature in its crafting of the laws. And she's always taken great pains never to impose the court's views or policy preferences on either the law or the facts of a given case. In the family, she is dedicated to everyone, and she is the glue that holds the far-flung and disparate group together. If you read the tax court opinions, you will note that they are models of clarity, good writing, and tight legal analysis. And that excellence that she brings to the bench has not gone unnoticed on a larger stage. As you've heard, and I thank Mark Richards for his citation to Professor Pomp. Professor Pomp is one of the great scholars of the area in which the tax court practices. And his words weigh a great deal, and they make me emotional to hear that he holds her in that esteem. Because I get CLE hours too. I've accompanied Marty to lots of addresses and lots of gatherings. And I can tell you that she is universally respected in this field, not just for the position that she holds, but for the manner in which she has discharged the position. She has been named to the American College of Tax Counsel in the ABA, and that is a tiny, tiny fraction of tax practitioners who are awarded that honor. It's been referenced already about her role in the National Conference of State Tax Judges, but just a quick note on the arithmetic. There are more than 50 jurisdictions represented in that body. District of Columbia, some states have municipalities that have taxing entities that have their own review system. So you have over 50, and not every one of those people has a career long enough, and if you think about the arithmetic, to have been named Tax Judge of the Year, to say nothing to have been asked to chair the event twice. But she has, and that is the highest honor from her peers. In June of this year, Judge Wentworth and her friend and colleague, whom the Chief Justice referred to, Judge Robert Meineke of the Oregon Tax Court, were given the honor to speak at the Northwestern Pritzker School of Law's inaugural symposium on state and local tax for judges and for tax practitioners. They were the keynote speakers. And so, again, if you think about the arithmetic, a lot of jurisdictions, one of the jurisdictions that was asked was ours. And the esteem in which she is held, and that is evidenced that she is held in by that request and the others that have been enumerated, redound to the benefit of this state's judiciary, its bar, and its people, and we're lucky for it. Thank you. Now, esteem like that doesn't come without hard work and a lot of it, and that's the dedication. And you've all heard about her teaching, her continuing legal ed work, and so on. I just want to point out a couple of things. She's the judge of the Indiana Tax Court, but when Justice Gorsuch was appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court and the questions of administrative law began to rise above the radar, much higher than they'd been previously, Judge Wentworth, as a reviewing court of administrative agency actions, started to take a significant interest in the legal scholarship as it has developed. And she's prepared a detailed continuing legal ed presentation about the topic and about the varying and competing methods and philosophies of judicial review over these administrative actions. And 2 years ago, the prestigious Hartman State and Local Tax Forum in Nashville, Tennessee, asked her to speak and give that CLE to its members. And so once again, there's that question of recognition and esteem, but it comes from the work that she does herself. And last, just to put a capstone on it, she's not done. She's teaching this semester, again, at McKinney. She had class Monday night. And last week, in the midst of preparing for today's event, she spoke at the Department of Revenue's Conference of Auditors and explained the judicial role, the separation of powers, the requirement of neutrality. So she's still with it. This is not retirement. This is a change in focus. And at the end of that speech, the Commissioner of the Department of Revenue presented her with an award, and I want to close with his comments on the substance of mine. And this I have to read directly, so just bear with me. Your care, passion, and love of tax law and commitment to serving the citizens of Indiana have truly been inspiring. Thank you, Commissioner Grennis. They certainly have. So I'll go back to 3 in my final comment. Marty, on behalf of myself and the family, many of whom are here today from all over, and your friends, we honor you for what you've accomplished. We love you for who you are, and we can't wait for the next chapter. Thank you.
Well, Judge Wentworth, I echo Erica's comments. Could you share some joie de vivre with us now?
Wow. What an emotional day this is for me, especially looking out, although I can't see as far as I used to, looking out and seeing so many of the people who have been the people that have helped me in my career, in my family life, in everything that I've become as a person. And I thank you all. There's really not enough time to talk about each and every one of you and the impact you've had on my life. But I'm going to try to point out a few things. First of all, thank you, Chief Justice Rush, for presiding today. And it has been an honor for me to serve under the first female Chief Justice of our Supreme Court. I thank you so much for that. I'm going to say some anecdotes that I didn't think I had time for, but I'm going to do it anyway. When I think it was after the first year I was on the bench, I gave a CLE with a bunch of other people from the Bar Association over at the law school. And it was to encourage women and other people as well, but mostly women, to apply for the open Supreme Court position at the time. And Chief Justice Rush was one of the people that came to that. And she has noted a couple of times how significant that was. She was on the fence about whether to put her hat in the ring. And aren't we glad that she did? And I'm so proud that I had a small part. So I thank you very much. And Chief Judge Altice, thank you so much for being here and representing the best court of appeals in the nation. I've known so many of the people who now are retired, some of whom are here, and all the new people. I know many of you even before you took the bench. So I thank you for all that you do. I cite you all the time. I don't see you citing me.
Let's keep it that way.
You're only persuasive to me, as I am to you. But anyway, I do have great respect for the Court of Appeals, and thank you. I found mentors when I needed them, especially in the beginning of my career as a judge. And I looked to you all. I also looked at, where's Heather Welch? She was a wonderful mentor for me. And I thank you all. The judiciary, we have the finest judiciary, and I will always keep it in my heart and try to make it be improved. So thank you. Because I'm trying not to omit anyone, but don't want us to be here until dinner time. So when I got robed in this room, I commented then, because I had just come away from my career at Deloitte, and I had retired from there so I could take this job. And I commented that there were more accountants in the audience than have ever been in this room ever before. And that was true. Today, I have more attorneys and tax attorneys that have ever been in one place in this room before. So it shows how your life evolves. Nonetheless, there are several people from my life at Deloitte who are here, and I am so grateful for your presence and your friendship, and we all have to get together and have a party. So thank you so much for being here and being part of my life. Several of those people I would have had as my daughters or sons if I got to adopt. I love my own daughters. They were my real ones. But I'd love to adopt you guys because you're great. I'm so glad to have a part of your careers. The speakers. Thank you, Joe, for the great comments you made. Sagamore, the Wabash is stunning. Thank Governor Holcomb, please, for me. He's not only our governor, but he's a friend from prior to being governor. Heather, I've already said what a great mentor you were, and I appreciate it. Mark Richards, the legend and the icon. Thank you. Mark is representative of many people out here. Tom Atherton, David Cease. I just am not going to name all of you because mostly they're Fagery Baker Daniels people sitting there. But all the folks that were on the tax section over the years, I started working with the tax section right after I stopped clerking. And I've been active ever since. And I hope they'll still let me be active. But it's a wonderful thing to be able to have some interaction with the litigators. When I was a judge, they didn't kick me out, so that was great. And we made a lot of strides procedurally and did a lot of good things. So thank you, Mark. Amy and Joe, the Bar Association has been part of my passion for the law. I think it's a wonderful organization. And I have to say, Amy has such great taste in dogs. We had a beautiful, wonderful greyhound we loved, and Amy also has a greyhound, so we have that connection, the love of greyhounds. Chuck Dunlap. Chuck has been a good friend since almost right after I took the bench. Our careers have grown together. I have so much respect for you and what you've done for the state in the pro bono area, in the civil, in the We the People, and the mock trials. I promise I'm going to participate in those more now. If you can volunteer for those. It just gives you faith in the future, the young people that we have. What can I say about Judge Fisher? Judge Fisher is my friend, my mentor, and instilled in me the love of this area that I didn't even know existed when I graduated from law school. I never took a state tax class, ever. They didn't offer it. And I was going to be a federal tax attorney because I took that class, and I loved federal tax. And of course, you do your federal return, and then you say, okay, now let's move the numbers from the federal return to the state, and then you're done, right? That's all I thought it was. What he taught me, the joy, the ins and outs. He gave me a horrible case, the first one, though, I must say, to research. It was a personal property tax case that 2 other clerks gave up on. He said, do this. So I will eternally be in your debt for all the wise comments and lessons that you gave me and instilling the love of state tax. I thank you. I can't ever thank you enough. My family. My daughter Amy, who was the first to speak, she's my older daughter. She's been in Spain for almost 13 years now. She has my 2 wonderful grandsons, Xavier, who's just wonderful, and Santiago as well. Santiago's about to be 16, so she's in the terrible teenage years. And Xavier is going to be 12 soon, and he's just a wonderful, wonderful kid. They love soccer. They love Harry Potter, but they're in Spain. And since COVID, I haven't seen them in four years. But finally, when we go over to see them, but finally, Amy was able to come and spend this month with me. First time in 10 years she's been home. So thank you so much, honey. I love you very much. My other daughter, my younger daughter, Katie, she is so accomplished. And she married the nicest guy. And they have a baby. I have a 3-month-old granddaughter that's sitting over there. Have you even heard her say anything? She is perfect. And I just can't wait. And she is, you notice my name, Martha Blood Wentworth. I added the Blood, it's my maiden name, because my parents were dead when I got to the bench. And I wanted to honor them. Well, I have changed it now on my resume, and it says Martha Merritt Blood Wentworth. Merritt is my middle name, and my granddaughter's name is Sylvia Merritt Beeson. So thank you for naming her after me, and I hope to be a wonderful grandmother. Thank you, Katie, for being a wonderful daughter and picking the right guy that we love and having a wonderful granddaughter. And I love you, honey. Bill. Bill and I have been together. We've known each other, gosh, what, 30, a long time. We've been together 33 years. I think we met, the first week of law school we met. There was a reception and we met. And it was many years later, obviously, that we became more attached to one another, and neither one of us can get rid of the other one. But he has been my inspiration. He's the smartest person I've ever known. He argues with me, right, all the time, but he supports me in everything I do. I hope I support him in everything he does. He's a perfectionist, and I'm a perfectionist. He loves our family. He loves my family. I love his family. Thank you so much for your kind remarks, and I hope to have many, many more years together, even though this is the 33rd. My favorite numbers. Speaking of family, well, I'm going to go the rest of the family last. I couldn't be here today without the support from the tax court. I've already talked about Judge Fisher and his leadership, but I also have 3 people I want to talk about. Erica Aker, who is a speaker here, who is my staff attorney. She was also Judge Fisher's staff attorney. Where are you, Karen? Are you? There's Karen. Karen Graves, who is my court administrator and has put in a lot of effort for today to happen. And she was also Judge Fisher's court administrator. And then there's Brandy Chanin. I've learned to say your name. And she's my senior clerk. And she also was a clerk for Judge Fisher. And they have been with me this whole time. And we've also had other clerks that have been rotating clerks, because I really do feel the judiciary needs to give back and teach people from this side of the bench what it's like before they go out and practice. It's a really wonderful way to start. I started that way, and I've never regretted it. But again, I couldn't put out the opinions I do. They wouldn't be as clear or as well-reasoned without the input and the effort and the brain power of those 3 ladies. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for every single moment and effort that you put in to make our court the best tax court in the nation. I thank you. All of you who are here, and I'm going to name you, if I can find where this is. There are some of my former clerks here, and I want to name you because you gave as much to me. You didn't know this. You were interns or externs or summer clerks or ICLEO. I think my first clerk was ICLEO with Amy Beard. Are you? I think she's here. Yes, there she is. She's risen very high, and all my clerks have done so well. So I'm going to name them. Amy was my first, Amy Beard. Cole Brinegar, he's been a wonder. These are all great people. Delaney, I knew her as Burnett, and now she's Deitch. Is that? I probably didn't say that right. Zach Cronkite, Zach Rabley, Lance Howard. He was an ICLEO, I think. Weren't you an ICLEO, Lance? Melissa Mitchie. I should put my glasses on, but I'm going to strain. John Lowry and Stephen Schneck. Now, this is a name to say. I'm going to do it right, Stephen. Schneckler. Is there an L there? Yeah, Schneckler. All of you have been wonderful. And Carol Skinner and Anna Ashtar. Are you guys here? They are two of my art teachers. Carol, I broke my ankle, and I sat in bed looking at the ceiling saying there has to be something more than work because nobody's coming to see me or anything. So I promised myself I'd find something I could do for myself. And I went to Carol Skinner's class, and she taught me oil painting. And when oil painting was too hard to put together and take apart, I didn't have time, I went to watercolor, and Anna has been very important to me as a watercolorist. And I think Mark Williams and Jerry Wiley are here, who are on the board of the Indianapolis Art Center, which is I'm on the board there. I love that place with a passion, and I thank you for giving me. They always said that if you did art, it was cheaper than getting a psychiatrist. Believe me, it is not. I am so thankful for people who are here from the very agencies I reviewed. One of my goals as a judge was to connect with them so that we weren't isolated from one another and thought of each other as enemies rather than people all getting the oars going the same way for the money delivery system for this state. And I tried really hard to make those connections. And I'm very, very proud to have the Commissioner of the Department of Revenue and many of the people there that I've known throughout the years. I think besides Bob, it's Luann Pelser, Mike Ralston, Chris Russell, Lena Sneathen, and if I've missed anybody, please don't be mad. At any rate, thank you for being here. The AG's office is also part of our tax system. They represent a lot of the state and assessors, and so there are people here representing them. Lori Torres is here. She's Chief Deputy Attorney General. I think that's your title. And Lydia Golden, who is a litigator in my court. The IBTR, all three commissioners are here. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And you're the ones I review the most, but you win most of the time, right? The DLGF is also represented here. We don't get that many cases from them, but I appreciate Jennifer Thuma and Dan Shackle for being here. Thank you so much. From the tax bar, I've already talked about some of the people who are here. Let's see if I've missed anyone. Catherine Merritt Thrasher. She has that Merritt in her name too. And Randy Kaldenmark. Ben Blair is here. And Abe Benson, he was my student too. So last but not least, well, there are two other things. Oh, I'm way over, but I'm going to do this. My friends are here. Two of my college roommates are here, Kim Sharp and Terry Hawkins. Now, Terry's wife one of my best friends, used to always like to tell people at parties that I was her husband's roommate once. He was in the basement and I was in the attic, so I mean, come on. But But at any rate, I thank you for your friendship and being here. Tom Sharp as well, I've known him that long, and so many others. But the very last thing I want to say is my family. Family comes first, but I want to leave you with a taste in the mouth of my family. And I'm going to just do this because I think you're all sitting right there. I've already talked about my 2 daughters whom I love deeply and my son-in-law. And I've talked about Bill. I would like to introduce you to my sister, Amy, common name in our family, and my other sister, Lisa. And Lisa has a new graduate next to her. It's my niece, Libby. She just graduated from Cornell with a civil engineering degree. Not many women get them. I'm so proud of her and was so glad to go to her graduation. Scott and Ruth Barrett, Bill's older brother, who is also an attorney. He doesn't do much tax, but he did start a tax litigation that went all the way to the Supreme Court, right, Scott? I teach it. I teach it. He should have stayed in it. He would have had his name on a Supreme Court case. And his wife, Ruth, who was so kind to me and nursed me back to health when I broke my ankle, and I will be eternally grateful for that. Have I missed anyone because I can't see? In my family, is any... Wait a minute.
Your sister's pointing to someone right next to her.
Which sister?
Amy.
Charlie.
That is Chipper. That's not Charlie. That is Chipper. Chipper, I didn't even recognize you. You look just like your dad. Anyway, thank you for being... Chip is so loyal. He was in law school a few years after me. He's almost as old as I am, right? No, he's much younger than I am. He's my cousin, and I have 2 other cousins, so there's his sister and his brother, but they live so far away they couldn't come. Chip went to law school at IU, and then was a deputy prosecutor here in Marion County, and then now you're deputy prosecutor in Detroit, aren't you? Yes, and he's been that a long time, so you know he's a tainted individual. Chipper, thank you for being here. I'm still going to call you Chipper. I don't care if you go by Charlie. So I didn't miss my family, did I? Okay. I love you all. Thank you for being here. And before I turn this back over to the Chief Justice, I just want to say that if you want to know the reason I got people interested in tax, I used to go around giving my speech to young lawyers, and the name of it, and it's the only reason they came, when the name was Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. Tax is law, not math. They don't come when tax is the first word. They come when sex is. The other last thing that I want to say is, well, I got a huge bouquet of flowers in my office today from the judge of the Oregon Tax Court, Robert Maneke. Thank you if you're watching. And I'm keeping you from the most wonderful treat out in the reception area here that you're ever going to have. A friend of mine had a birthday. Every birthday she got a cake from Taylor's Bakery. We had it together. I'd never tasted anything so good. It is orange fluff cake from Taylor's Bakery. Go buy some. Try it out there. You're going to fall in love. Thank you, Susan Black, for this cake.
Thank you, Judge Wentworth. I'm going to ask Pastor Aaron Story to come up to the podium. Pastor Story is a longtime friend of Judge Wentworth, and he also gave the benediction at a robing ceremony 12 and a half years ago. Pastor Story.
I want to rename my part in inspiration of Marty to the big sexy benediction. It just sounds way more exciting. I didn't know you could do that as a tax speaker, so I'm going to do it as a pastor. As Hoosiers and citizens and dignitaries and friends and coworkers of you, Judge, we celebrate this thriving season of successful public service and ultimately this great season ahead of you, as you've heard here all today. We celebrate this rich new season of health and family and grandchildren and all the new joys that certainly will follow for your life. And I want to look at the scriptures for a benediction from the book of Numbers that judge for your season ahead. I hope you hear this. And then as I was reflecting on the comments that were all shared towards you today, I want to add an additional one that wasn't in my notes. But Numbers 6:23, 24 to 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. But as I think about a passage of scripture that, and ultimately many of the folks probably in this room share in longing to hear whenever the day is that maybe we don't wake up, and we like to hear this from our Maker and Creator, as if we could summarize in 6 words what you heard today from your peers and citizens and friends and loved ones, is a powerful phrase that ultimately we all want to hear throughout our lives as well. And the phrase is, well done, good and faithful servant. And you heard that today loud and clear, with deep love and gratitude and friendship among many. It's recognized in the Sagamore and other awards you've received, and more importantly than awards, because those things come and go, right, is from the heart sentiment from loved ones here today. But let's take a minute and close in prayer, and for those of you that maybe that's not appropriate for, take some time in a quiet reflection, but for those of us it is, please join me in a closing prayer for our time together. Father, your word says that you are over all things, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, and that you have created all things. Ultimately, you hold the greatest authority over all authorities, and we thank you, God. May every heart here rest in your sovereignty, knowing our days are in your hands. Even amid trouble, nothing is too hard for you. When you decide, you will wipe all tears from every grieving eye and replace mourning with joy. And our greatest day of celebration on this earth are all gifts of your grace, and they too will be amplified even more in your timing. Show us, dear God, to be glad and rejoice in you and all you have in us. In closing, I pray this in the name above all names, Lord God. Together we all say, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Well, on behalf of Judge Wentworth, I want to thank you all for coming. I want to give a specific shout out to baby Sylvia. I've never thought this was a good room to nap in, but having watched her, I'm rethinking that. She looks so comfortable. So thank you all for coming. Karen Graves, I want to also secondarily thank you. You've been lugging those surprise cakes in all morning. You know what you've done to bring this off. Thank you for your work. It was a beautiful ceremony, and it really showcased such a wonderful person, Judge Wentworth. So there'll be an informal reception where the special dessert will be out there. Even if you don't like it, tell her you like it. It's her day. It's her day, she's promised. We'll get to-go bags. So thank you all for coming, and this concludes the celebration, and we'll move to the reception area. The back doors to the library will also be open for you to exit. Sheriff?
All right. Court is adjourned.